Today's episode, do the Cubs already have a closer for 2023? We'll tell you who that could be. Did you know the second rendition as we reveal a player from a past draft and best and worst of the week right now?
Are Locked On Cubs, your daily Chicago Cubs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cubs alongside Sam Olber. I'm Matt Cozy. Pleased to be with you for a Friday episode. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. Sam and I are lifelong fans, taking our passion into a discussion with you on all things Cubs. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Sam, hopefully you're having a good Thursday. And
well, apparently you are. Yeah. Apparently you're having a good Thursday, or maybe too good of a Thursday. You know what I mean? I just so you know,
my future's bright.
And just so you know, if we do get to the 10 to 15 minute mark, and you still have those sunglasses on, you could find a new partner. I'd like to say that tonight's a big night. Right now it's 5:34 Central Time. In 4 hours, whatever my team softball name is, will be squaring off against the number 12 seed team in the first round of the Softball City playoffs. I expect a victory, would be very disappointed with anything less. And I will continue on pace to my 6.5 WAR season. Now, let's get into today's show. We're going to talk about the Cubs.
You don't have a team name?
We do. I forgot what it is. Some creative, one of these play on words. I don't like that stuff.
Well, I'm glad you're playing tonight. It's a clear night, a beautiful night. So let's get this ball game in.
It might be the greatest early November weather night in the history of the city.
It's really been phenomenal weather. So we're going to step in the classroom right now and grade left-handed reliever Brandon Hughes. Brandon Hughes had a stat line in 2022, his rookie season, of 3.12 ERA in 57 innings, 42 hits, 21 walks, 68 strikeouts, a 1.09 whip. Sam, he had an outstanding rookie season. What were your first impressions of him this year, and obviously the grade you would give him?
Well, he couldn't have had a better first impression in that debut game. People forget, before Morel hit that home run, it was it was Mr. Hughes that struck out, I believe, all 6 men that he faced at Wrigley Field against Pittsburgh that same night. That game was so fun. Impressive guy. I would say I'm a little apprehensive to say the Cubs have a closer in 2023 if we're referring to him. He has good stuff. I wouldn't say it's great, but it's good. And I definitely think he's going to be a very important piece to the Cubs back end of their bullpen this upcoming season. And when whenever I do these grades, and I know some people have problems with them, I always go with like the expectation. So like for Hughes, I'm going to give him an A- because I didn't really have him on my radar, and for him to be one of the guys that kind of came out of nowhere this year and projects to be a contributor next year. And of course, we've learned with all these relievers that it is very arbitrary and almost impossible to predict. He could be awesome. He could be in the minor leagues by May. But with what I've seen, and that's all I could go by, I have to give him an A-.
Yeah, I think that's a fair grade. My scale is evolving because now I'm kind of matching up all the Cubs together. So can I really give Brandon Hughes the highest grade right now, for example? I'd have to look back at all the grades I've given, but and I don't really know how that works. I guess it's our rules, right?
It's your rules.
But I have to take that into consideration. So I'm giving Hughes just a grade lower than you, the next range. I'm going to give him a B+.
Sure.
Took advantage of his opportunity. His expectations were zero entering the year. Nobody knew who he was. For him to pitch like he did as a rookie was really impressive in my mind. He established himself not only as a pitcher who can get outs at the big league level, but he established himself as a high leverage reliever.
Yeah.
And when was the last time the Cubs had a homegrown lefty relief pitcher? It had been a long time, perhaps since. Anyways, perhaps since maybe administration or like a historical event, but it's been a long time. The Cubs have had success bringing in some veterans. I've even seen some chatter today with Andrew Chafin opting out of his deals with Detroit. But in terms of a player that's actually homegrown, hasn't happened for a while. And did you know that Brandon Hughes actually was an outfielder?
Yes,
You did know that.
I did know that.
I can't get anything past you.
Sure, you can.
And high upside. You talked about his repertoire a little bit, mostly fastball,
Slider.
fastball up to 95 ish.
Right.
I really want to get to this question though of
tough on both sides.
Yeah, tough on both sides. Better against lefties, right?
Of course.
Could Brandon Hughes be the closer in 23? Why or why not?
He could be, sure. I would say it's unlikely. Like I said, you could go down a real rabbit hole here trying to predict how the bullpen's going to play out. So I really try not to. I trust Jed and Ross to execute that. It seems like one thing with Jed Hoyer that he's been pretty consistent with is he's able to piece together pretty competent bullpens over the last couple of years. Going into the year, it's always been a concern. And the year before last, it was Tepera and Kimbrel was tremendous. And then this past year, Robertson was great, Efros was great, Givens was good. They're usually able to figure it out. So I'll let them do that. But yeah, sure, he could be. I mean, it's not like you're asking me if some random guy like Manny Rodriguez isn't going to be the closer in 2023. But yeah, Hughes has got a chance. These grades are tricky, Matt, because you're right. You make a good point. It's like the figure skating thing. You can't give a 10 because then who's going to get an 11, right?
Right.
And my whole thing is like, okay, Ian Happ had a better year than Brandon Hughes, but I gave Ian Happ a B and I gave Hughes an A-. But I just subconsciously use expectations. I know Ian Happ's good and he has a chance to be great, whereas so I expect a little bit more from him than a guy that just kind of came out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And the other thing with the grading scale is, do you compare it to other people that position in the sport?
Yeah, and I tend to just kind of compare it to what I look at and see and what I think they should be at. Like next year, like my grading scale for Ian Happ will be, 20 to 25 home runs at least, OPS over 800, stellar left field defense, and then it starts from there. So even if he has a year like this again, it's still a really good year. Then it probably goes up to like a B+, but I still don't think it's a flat A. With Hughes now, he'll have to take a jump, get some saves, ERA probably under 3, strikeout rate a little bit higher. You know what I mean? I'm not a teacher.
No, those are all great points and great considerations. And
I feel like I got a little like an Elvis thing going tonight. You know what I mean?
Have you ever been to Memphis?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, you do. You do. The hair is really like on point.
Yeah, and it's unintentional.
Okay. Thanks for letting us know.
Yeah.
And if Brandon Hughes is in the 7th or 8th inning, that's fine.
Great.
I'll be excited to see him, and he's gonna get big outs against different clubs.
All right.
And especially the team up north, the team a little bit to the west. The couple teams out east.
Right.
And so, we all know who those are, and excited to see where he goes in 2023. Anything else on Hughes?
Yeah, no, I'll be in a few minutes for that salmon. Nah, I got the salmon in the oven before the game.
Really?
Yeah, pregame fish.
Pregame meal.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, very nice.
Nothing else on Hughes. Had a nice year. One of the many nice pitching stories for the Cubs in 2022.
And that was a fun debut with him and Chris Morel in the same game. We'll remember that for a while. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Sam reported to me off the air before we pressed record that the wind conditions in Champaign this Saturday, it's in Champaign or East Lansing?
It's going to be Champaign, Illinois.
Champaign is going to be winds upwards of 50 miles per hour. Right now, the line on that ball game is
17 flat, Illinois.
Wow. And Illinois, by the way, is number 16 in the first college football playoff rankings. We'll keep an eye on that line as conditions change or improve. And you can do that with Bet Online, as they're your number one source for betting football. And to start a new basketball season, the Bulls improved to 5-4 last night. That was a victory against who again?
That's going to be Charlotte.
Charlotte, yes. And they did that courtesy of mostly the bench I saw.
Yes.
So nice to see the Bulls notch a victory to get over 500. You can find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, in-depth analysis on every game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. So like, for example, when the Phillies get out to like a 4 or 5 run lead tonight against Verlander,
no way.
You could look at the live betting lines as that game progresses. The fastest and easiest way to check in all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. Bet online, where the game starts. Welcome back to Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. And a fun Friday show. We always have a great time on Fridays, and thank you for joining us whenever and wherever you may be listening. And hopefully everybody has a good fall weekend. A lot of good weather coming up in our area. Sam, the second edition of Did You Know? Again, this is looking back at Cubs drafts from 2000 through 2019. The reason why we're cutting it off there is because we're looking at players that advanced to the major leagues. And that's only through 2019 in the Cubs system, which makes for an even 20 drafts, which is good. Okay, so last week we determined what exactly? That I was picking a random year, right? Not in order. So last week was 2000. I'm not going to do 2001.
Yeah, pick a different one.
So the 10th round pick in 2004 was this outfielder out of Stanford.
Is this turning into like a a quiz Sam thing? Because I'm not a great.
Well, I know we said you were going to guess some stuff last week.
Okay,
that's going to be it's going to be trades that we're going to guess in a couple minutes.
Got it. Okay.
I wanted to see if you would get this.
Yeah. I think I might know it. 2004, because I remember Stanford. Does he share? Do I share a name with him?
Yes.
Yeah, that's going to be Sam Fold.
Come on, man. I can't believe you got that.
Yeah, well, I don't have a lot of friends. And can I just say one thing while I'm talking here?
Sure.
That ad read was just so sublime. And I just want to say this. A lot of people have tried to form nicknames for us, which is totally awesome and cool.
Uh-huh.
I think the nickname line starts and ends with Lennon and McCartney. Go, carry on. You know what I mean?
All right. Sam Fold made a quick debut. Made his debut 3 years later after the draft, playing briefly as a September call-up in 07. 2009, if you look at his career, ended up as his best offensive season when he hit 299 with a 409 OBP in 65 games. Played parts of 8 seasons in the majors, including stints with the Rays, A's, and Twins. What do you remember about Sam Fold?
That he wasn't that good. I would say this was Corey Patterson's brother Eric a part of that draft for the Cubs? You don't have that in front of you.
I don't have that in front of me. What I do have in front of me,
I think he was part of the 04 draft class, and it wasn't a good one, if I remember correctly.
7 out of the 50 players made it to the big leagues, 14%.
And how does that compare to a good
It's low.
I was gonna say it wasn't a very
It's low.
good
How about the
draft.
next year? 2 out of 50.
Well, the 04 season for the Cubs as a whole was one of the most disappointing years in the history of the city.
It was a disaster.
Sosa, Derek Lee, Aramis, Alou, Garcia Parra, Wood, Pryor coming off the 03 debacle, and they don't even make the postseason.
And most of that, if I recall, was because of LaTroy Hawkins.
Yeah, and they still and they actually won one more game than they did in 03, but it wasn't good enough that year.
Right. Right.
Well,
S-
the Cardinals made made the World Series that year.
wow, that's right. Fold has been in the Phillies front office since 2017, has been the Phillies GM since late 2020. Okay, so there was a big trade in January of 2011. Okay, ready? Fold
No,
was traded in a huge deal to the Rays.
Carlos
Uh,
Pena,
no.
Matt
There was
Garza.
other major league players in the trade too. For Matt Garza, right?
Right.
The Cubs also sent over 3 players, and that all those guys were major league players eventually.
Yeah,
Sam Fold, Brandon Geyer,
right,
Robinson Chirinos, and Chris Archer.
right.
So that was a massive deal to get Garza, who pitched a little bit with the Cubs after that.
Yeah, they always have some of those throw-ins. I think Josh Donaldson was a throw-in in the Rich Harden deal.
Right.
Years prior. They
We might get
always
to him eventually.
right, right. Yeah, no, interesting. Probably I would say a little bit too much. I didn't really need to learn that much about Sam Fold today, but otherwise interesting tidbit. The Dontrell Willis one was definitely more interesting to me.
Right.
But you got to pick every year, and that's a bland year. That's a bland draft year. When Sam Fold's your standout, you got to look in the mirror as an organization. So
He was the standout.
yeah, that's a bad draft.
They had a lot of bad drafts from basically 04 to 07.
Well, that would make sense, right?
It does.
But that's the thing. And then people say, well, wait a second. But 07 and 08, they won the division. No, it goes so you don't feel the
No.
effects of that till way later.
Right.
You're operating in like a 4-year delay in baseball. That's
Totally.
why when things were humming and we were dancing at 16 and 17, but Theo wasn't making some great moves, we started to feel that in 20 and 21, and a little bit of 19.
Okay.
So, a baseball organization, it's hard to run.
Right. Coming up next is best and worst of the week. Stick around. We're back here on Locked On Cubs. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We have graded Brandon Hughes. We have done Did You Know and revealed Sam Fold. Now we have best and worst of the week. My best, Sam, is a couple things. Number one, it's been 60s and 70s in the Chicagoland area all week. It's been summer in November. And then last Thursday, we recorded, I think around this time, about 5, 6 p.m. Central. Well, a couple hours later, I received a phone call from my dad in the car, and I picked it up, and he was on a 3-way call that brought in my Uncle Mike as well, who called to report that he went to an Arizona Fall League game. He had just spoken to and taken a picture with Matt Mervis.
I saw that. Very cool.
That was good. That was good to get that picture and a good live report from Sloan.
That was very cool. My best of the week has to be my birthday yesterday. I typically, or in this case, Wednesday. I typically am not a huge fan of my birthday because you guys know me well enough by now. I'm not really a huge fan of anything. But it was really cool how many people from the show reached out.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I would say maybe like a half a dozen Twitter DMs.
Awesome.
Wishing me a
Some
happy
YouTube
birthday,
stuff as
and
well.
then a YouTube comment. So that was really cool. I appreciated that.
Yeah, that was nice. My worst of the week. So tonight, 7:03 Central is Game 5 of the Phillies Astros, right?
Yes.
For some reason, the Phillies are not starting Zach Wheeler. And I'm really nervous about this as somebody that would like to see the Phillies continue their dance. Noah Syndergaard is taking the ball against Justin Verlander. And, you had that rain out. I just thought that you would manipulate with Wheeler. And I saw some quotes about health and stuff like that. Health, and I also saw like 2023 referenced. Game 5 of the World Series. Who cares about health in 2023?
Right.
Is that bad to say?
Well,
you got to win this game.
No, it's not bad to say, and I agree with you almost all the way. The only thing I would say is there's certain guys, Shane Bieber's one of them, that can't pitch on short rest. They just don't, maybe they feel like, hey, listen, Syndergaard's on full rest. We're going to be at home. We feel like we could steal that game. We have Wheeler going if we're up 3-2 or down 3-2. I'd rather that than have 65% of Zach Wheeler. Maybe that extra day, whatever is big. I don't know. I agree with you. I'm just playing devil's advocate, contrarian for a second. And speaking of devil's advocate and contrarian, my worst of the week is the NBA. I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to go down that route, but I'm just going to say this. A lot of offensive things coming out, especially to me. And I don't like the way the NBA is handling it. Almost feels kind of like a double standard where they're really aggressive on some issues and then everybody's silent on other issues. And it's just not in a good place right now. It seems like the NBA and Matt, you can echo this as a cat. I would say less than a casual NBA fan, but somebody that's just intelligent. That more oftentimes than not now, when you read about the NBA, you're reading about something either off the court or something that's offensive than the product on the court. I don't like where it's headed. I don't like the way things are being handled, and I particularly have taken some offense to that. So that was my worst of the week. That encompassed a lot of my reading time during the evening.
Be sure to hit that subscribe button for Locked On Cubs on YouTube and smash the like button on all your favorite Cubs content. Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. And remember, drop us a text. We will read those on Monday's episode, 312-834-4634. Thanks for making Locked On Cubs your first listen every day. Now make your second the Locked On Sports Today podcast. Locked On Sports Today is our 22-minute recap of the previous night in sports. It features local experts on each of the big stories, as well as the take of the day from one of the Locked On hosts. Good luck to Sam and his softball team. We'll get a full report on Monday's show as well. And everybody have a fantastic weekend. For Sam Olber, I'm Matt Cozy. This is Locked On Cubs.